What's up everybody on YouTube, AJ Russ back to discuss another video, and today we're going to be talking about players under the most pressure for these 2024 NFL playoffs. Alright guys, so this is an amazing time. Playoffs are about to start. Wild card weekend is about to commence. Really bittersweet time, but this is the best weekend in my opinion because there's so many games, and then as the rounds dwindle down, of course you have the divisional round and then the championship games, then going to the Super Bowl, so looking forward to that. With that being said, we're also looking forward to the players who are going to step up and rise to the occasion of the playoffs. This is where legends are truly made. We've seen that in moments. Patrick Mahomes winning 2 Super Bowls in the past 4 seasons, of course, climbing up the charts in terms of all-time greats and things of that nature. And of course, with Tom Brady winning 7 rings in his tenure, we saw the biggest stars make their biggest marks in the postseason, and ultimately this is where it all starts. Peyton Manning, same thing. He had a lot of questions for his playoff record in the past, but he was able to get him 2 Super Bowls before retiring and having a legendary Hall of Fame career. So guys, with that being said, before we talk about the players under the most pressure, I do want to talk about some honorable mentions as well. But before I get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on post notifications, hit the like button for sure. I post videos about sports, lifestyle, and pop culture, NBA, NFL, Marvel, DC, all types of things like that. With that being said, let's get into the video. With honorable mention number 1, it really wasn't that hard to say, and you can make the argument that he's not under pressure, but I would make a good case in point because this team is easily the best in the NFC. And let me stop beating around the bush. The player for the first honorable mention is Brock Purdy. Now, a lot of people will argue this because the 49ers, they're rolling. Besides that loss to the Ravens, you can make the argument that they're the best team in the league, and I would agree with you, behind the Ravens. But everyone talked about Brock Purdy in the MVP conversation. Now, I really wasn't too bullish on that. Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, he should win the Offensive Player of the Year. We know that that's a quarterback award, so that's why Brock Purdy was in the conversation, most definitely. But I do think that Lamar Jackson is going to win the award. But Brock Purdy, of course, he has overcome all expectations. No one expected anything out of him. I mean, literally Mr. Irrelevant. We know his story. His contract is so team friendly. It's not even in the millions. Like, it's ridiculous and remarkable of a story, but it really is great. And we can't deny the Shanahan system, obviously. We can't use that to a detriment to him, but it's reality. He has a lot of weapons. Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams on the offensive line, and then defensively, so stacked, of course, having Nick Bosa, trading for Chase Young, having Hargrave, Fred Warner as well. Just the team is super loaded. So the 49ers, they should make the Super Bowl in theory, but if they don't, a lot of people are going to question, is it because of Brock Purdy? We saw that 4 interception performance that he had on Christmas against the Baltimore Ravens. Something like that happened in the playoffs potentially against the Cowboys. We don't know because obviously they dominated the Cowboys in the regular season, beat them 2 times in 2021 in the 2022 postseason, so only time will tell with that. But if there's a meltdown like that, I think a lot of people will be pointing their heads towards Brock Purdy and saying that he's a system quarterback. The next player under pressure in terms of an honorable mention standpoint, I would say is Tua Tagovailoa, and I have a lot of grace on him because a lot of the team is injured. Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, those players might not be playing in the game against Kansas City in the divisional round, and that game is going to be super cold. Favors Kansas City in terms of that. I do feel like though if the Dolphins were healthy that they would potentially win the game. That's a lot of conditions, and they're used to that Miami weather, so it's going to be a lot swing in the favor of the Chiefs. Also defensively for the Miami Dolphins, Bradley Chubb is out for the season. That is huge. That's a significant injury, and of course Jalen Phillips got hurt in a Black Friday game in November, so a lot of their defense is just decimated. I believe Xavier Howard as well, so that's a lot, man. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins do lose, but it depends on the fashion that they lose. If Tua Tagovailoa stinks up the joint against the Chiefs defense, which has really been one of the best in the league this year, a lot of people will be asking those questions. Should the Dolphins extend Tua? I think this year he has earned the right to earn a contract extension. You could definitely make the argument that this was a prove-it year for Tua in terms of proving that he is a franchise quarterback. And I believe it is that. Of course, in 2022, he had a lot of injury concerns with his head and the concussion injuries, but he's played every game this year, so props to him for that. The Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel have certainly had a great plan in place in terms of keeping him healthy and also having one of the most electric offenses that we've seen in this era and generation. But Tua stinks up the joint truly. There's going to be questions about that in him for sure. But those are the 2 honorable mentions, Brock Purdy and Tua Tagovailoa. So now with the honorable mentions out the way, let's get into the list truly. I could have named this video quarterbacks under the most pressure because this is a quarterback list, but I think it's good how I have it. So with that being said, at number 3, we have Josh Allen. And the reason why I have Josh Allen here with under the most pressure is because we've seen these moments of him being turnover prone and things of that nature. And with the Buffalo Bills, when they were 6-6 in week 12, there was a lot of questions. Would this team melt and fall down out of the playoff race? But they've been hot, winning 5 games in a row, winning the division in the AFC East after the Miami Dolphins pretty much led it for the majority of the season. Truly impressive how he's been playing. The running game with James Cook has been relevant. Joe Brady calling plays. So a lot is in the favor, I believe, of the Bills to be the biggest threat to the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC, in my humble opinion, especially with the flaws of Kansas City's offense. Only time will tell. We'll see in these couple rounds in the playoffs what happens, but this game against the Steelers, I feel like the Bills should dominate, especially with TJ Watt being out. Of course, you can't count out the grit and ferocity of a Mike Tomlin-led Steelers team, but the Bills should handle business, in my opinion, and win that game. And really, it's up. They're the 2 seed in the AFC this year. The Chiefs Chiefs look the most vulnerable we've ever seen them. There's no Bengals in the playoffs with Joe Burrow, who did eliminate the Bills last year. So their biggest test is Baltimore. And I believe that if they lose to the Baltimore Ravens, we potentially expect that. But it's in the fashion, like I say. A lot of these quarterbacks on this list, if they play great and their team just can't stop their opponent, I mean, it is what it is, but they stepped up in the moment. But ultimately, we do measure these quarterbacks by wins. And if Josh Allen has a lot of turnovers, interceptions, fumbles like he did even in that Miami Dolphins game, they did win, but that's going to cost you in the playoffs. If Josh Allen has that, I think it's going to be a referendum a lot on his name in terms of his success in the postseason. And we've seen him in the AFC Championship game before against Kansas City and in the divisional round against Kansas City a couple of years ago. But it's surely a prove-it time for Josh Allen. I mean, he's been great this season for the most part besides the turnovers, as he did have 44 combined rushing and passing touchdowns as a whole. So he definitely is a great football player that you want to have on your team besides the turnovers. But we will see. But I definitely think that Josh Allen has a lot of pressure going into this postseason. At the number 2 spot, I have Dak Prescott. I think that goes without saying. Dak, he had a tremendous regular season, having 36 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. A far cry from the 2022 season when he led the league in interceptions with 15. Despite missing those few games in the 2022 season, he still led the league in interceptions. But he's had a great year. Of course, the offense revitalized with Mike McCarthy. The running game hasn't been as relevant with Tony Pollard, but he still had a 1,000 rushing yard season. Still an explosive player and can make plays at the backfield. I do believe that the Cowboys, they don't make the NFC Championship game though. This is a failure of a season. And depending on how Dak Prescott plays, a lot is going to fall on him. We've seen these moments in the postseason with Dak not being able to extend plays, being scared to rush, being scared to get out the pocket, throwing the ball away with those Kellen Moore offensive coordinator led. But this year, I believe it's the best chance for the Cowboys to make the NFC Championship game, a feat that they haven't accomplished in 28 years. The opportunity is open for them. CeeDee Lamb, arguably the best receiver in football right now. Of course, Tyreek Hill dominated for most of the year, but CeeDee Lamb has been electric and insane for the Dallas Cowboys, now holding the most receiving yards and receptions in the season in franchise history for them. A lot of weapons defensively. You know how great they are with Dan Quinn. This could be potentially the last season he's there, because with a lot of head coach openings, Dan Quinn will be a top candidate to land a head coaching job. Micah Parsons, one of the best edge rushers in the league, we know that. Deron Bland having a career year, having Stephon Gilmore with his experience. The defensive line just playing really good, stopping the run is going to be one thing that teams are going to test for the Cowboys. But my point is, the Dallas Cowboys and Dak, this is their best opportunity so far to win a Super Bowl, I believe, in the 8 years that Dak has been there. What's the excuse now? There is none. So if the Cowboys poop the bed and potentially lose in the first, even the second round, because they're the second seed, so they're going to have home field advantage. A lot is going to fall on Dak, and a lot's going to fall on Mike McCarthy as well, I do feel like. But he has to continue to play how he has in the regular season. No doubt about that. There's a lot of pressure on him. I believe that we could see Dak play great, but we haven't seen it yet. But if any year is going to happen, I believe it is in 2023. But he has to show up to the plate, and that's why he is number 2 on this list for being under the most pressure. Now, for the number 1 spot with the player under the most pressure for these 2024 NFL playoffs, in my opinion, it's no question, it's Lamar Jackson. And for this reason, we've seen the Baltimore Ravens in this position before with the first seed, with Lamar having an MVP caliber year, losing in the first round after a bye. And of course, I'm going to make the point that this Baltimore Ravens team is totally different. Their defense dominates with Roquan Smith and a plethora of other guys. Kyle Hamilton playing really good football in his second year. But offensively, this team is very explosive now. Even in the absence of Mark Andrews, you have players like Isaiah Likely stepping up, Zay Flowers having a tremendous rookie season, Odell Beckham Jr. still having flashes of his dominant moments, even Nelson Aguilar making plays. They're just a really good and well-balanced team. And this is Lamar's best opportunity to win a Super Bowl so far, especially in the AFC, where I continue to highlight that the Chiefs are the most vulnerable that they have been and probably will be, because they're going to find some more help in the offseason through the draft, through the free agent market. The Chiefs are going to get better. So if there's any year for Lamar Jackson to step up to the plate and play great in the postseason, it's this year for him as well. We're not really going to talk about his play style because it's different. It's unique. You can't really compare him to anybody. People try to compare him to Michael Vick, but he's even more electric in ways. He stepped up from a passing standpoint this year, of course, with offensive coordinator Todd Monken stepping into the fold. So Lamar Jackson, this is for sure a year that he's expected to win. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. They earned a first round bye. They're the Super Bowl favorites for a reason as well. Lamar Jackson, he's ahead of the snake. When he was drafted, he talked about, despite the place that he was drafted at, he was going to help them win a Super Bowl. And I believe that 5, nearly 6 years later, we're seeing the opportunity of itself right before our eyes in this year in 2024. So Lamar, if there's any year for him to get his first Super Bowl ring in the same conference with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, of course injured, but Joe Burrow, and all of these teams in the AFC, which in my opinion is the best conference, it's this year. It's now or never. Lamar, this is the perfect opportunity. So guys, y'all let me know in the comments down below what you think. Some of the players that you think are under the most pressure for this year, if you agree with my list, my honorable mentions as well. And also, if you have some more players that you think are under a lot of pressure going into these playoffs, it's going to be really entertaining and good. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight this. Shout out to Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, 2 of the greatest coaches that we have ever seen and will ever see at the college and professional level. A lot of people have wanted to talk about who was a better coach. Why can't we just say that Nick Saban was the greatest college coach of all time and that Bill Belichick is the greatest NFL coach of all time and leave it there? We do expect Bill Belichick to coach again in the NFL. Where, only time will tell. Hopefully it doesn't come out at the recording of this video because I'll feel dumb editing wise, but it's all good. But those are two great coaches, and also I'd be remiss not to talk about Pete Carroll as well. Love his energy. I want to see him coach again because it still seems like he wants to. It seems like he was pushed out. We're not going to get into that too much right now, but a lot of questions on that. But shout out to those three coaches. Legendary, changed the game of football for sure in particular. Bill Belichick, where will we see him next? That's a huge question mark. I'm just going to throw out this theory right now just to talk about it. I do believe if the Philadelphia Eagles poop the bed against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or if the Dallas Cowboys poop the bed against the Packers, one of those teams are going to go after. Watch, I'm telling you, a lot of these teams right now that have openings, I just really don't see a good fit for Bill Belichick. I think the best would be the Chargers, but I think that they're going to go after Harbaugh. Only time will tell with that. But like I said, going back into the players under pressure, let me know what y'all think about that. I had to talk about those legendary coaches though. But yeah, a lot of eventful news in the NFL ahead of wildcard weekend. I appreciate you guys watching always. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at SwaggyRuss, and also on TikTok at SwaggyRuss02 for cooking videos, sports content, and things of that nature. A lot of stuff, a lot of fun and great creative content on the way, guys. 2024 is going to be a blessed year for this channel. Not for just this channel, but also for you as well. Know that you can accomplish anything. You can put anything in your mind to. Thank you for everything. Y'all have a good one and be blessed. Enjoy this wildcard weekend.